I'm Jeff Allen Wolf, and this is A World Gone Mad. Well, Memorial Day is here this weekend, and I'm going to do something different with this episode. For those of you that like to learn new things and find out more about something, this episode is 100% for you. Memorial Day, the holiday most Americans think they understand, but don't. Memorial Day has become one of the most recognizable holidays in America, but it's also one of the most misunderstood. For millions of Americans, the holiday now means cookouts, long weekends, road trips, department store sales, baseball games, and the unofficial beginning of summer. Now, somewhere along the way, we took a solemn National Day of Remembrance and turned it into a weekend where people fight over folding chairs at Costco and scream at each other in airport terminals, which honestly feels incredibly American. But the actual history behind Memorial Day is much heavier, more emotional, and far more fascinating than most people realize. Some of you may already know all of this, but a lot of you may not. One of the biggest misconceptions surrounding Memorial Day is that it honors everyone who served in the military. That's actually Veterans Day, not Memorial Day. Memorial Day specifically honors the men and women who died while serving in the United States military. The holiday was born out of enormous national grief after the Civil War, a conflict so devastating that it permanently changed the country. More than 600,000 Americans were killed during that war, and some historians think the real number was probably even higher. Entire towns lost huge percentages of their young men. Families were shattered, communities were traumatized, and the country was emotionally exhausted. And remember, this happened in an era before television, social media, 24-hour news coverage, or even modern medicine. Americans weren't just reading about death. They were surrounded by it constantly. Every town had funerals. Every community had missing sons, brothers, fathers, and husbands. The emotional impact on the country was enormous. In the years following the Civil War, Americans started organizing tributes to fallen soldiers by decorating their graves with flowers, wreaths, ribbons, and flags. That's where the original name of the holiday came from, Decoration Day. Communities gathered in cemeteries, church bells rang, speeches were delivered, and families quietly moved through graveyards, honoring those who never came home. These early observances were deeply personal and emotional because nearly every family in America had been touched by the war in some way. Interestingly, nobody completely agrees on where Memorial Day officially began. More than 24 towns across the United States claim they started the tradition first, which means America somehow managed to turn even a remembrance holiday into a historical argument. Again, very on brand for this country. Some historians point to Southern communities decorating graves immediately after the Civil War, while others point to Northern ceremonies held around the same period. However, in 1966, Congress and President Lyndon Johnson officially declared Waterloo, New York, the birthplace of Memorial Day, because the town held a large community-wide tribute in 1866 honoring Civil War soldiers. Even today, historians still debate whether Waterloo truly deserves the title. So if you're sitting at a Memorial Day barbecue this weekend and desperately need to start an argument with your relatives, there you go. You're welcome. For decades, Memorial Day was observed every year on May 30th, regardless of what day of the week it landed on. That changed in 1971 when the federal government moved the holiday to the last Monday in May as part of the Uniform Monday Holiday Act, creating a guaranteed 3-day weekend for workers across the country. Some veterans groups and historians weren't thrilled about the change because they believed it shifted the focus away from remembrance and toward recreation. Looking around today, you can't really say they were completely wrong. For many Americans, Memorial Day has gradually become associated more with vacation travel, backyard barbecues, swimming pools, furniture sales, and trying to buy hot dogs in bulk than solemn reflection. And listen, there's nothing wrong with enjoying the weekend. That's part of American life too. But it's interesting how quickly this country can commercialize absolutely anything. Give America 5 minutes, we'll somehow attach a sale to it. One of the traditions that's remained genuinely powerful, however, takes place every year at Arlington National Cemetery. Before Memorial Day, soldiers place small American flags at graves throughout the cemetery. If you've ever seen photographs or video of it, the image is stunning. Endless rows of white headstones stretch across the hills, each marked with a perfectly placed American flag. Politics disappear for a moment. Cable news disappears for a moment. Social media disappears for a moment. It's just sacrifice sitting silently in front of you. Then there's the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, one of the most respected military traditions in America. What many people don't realize is that the tomb is guarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, every single day of the year. Rainstorms, snowstorms, hurricanes, extreme heat, and even national emergencies can't stop the guard. And honestly, in a world where people won't even return a shopping cart to the proper location, the level of discipline involved there is kind of incredible. During hurricanes, while most of Washington shuts down, the guards continue walking their post. During blizzards, they continue. During the COVID pandemic, they continued. The discipline and symbolism behind that tradition have earned enormous respect over the decades. Another thing many Americans don't know is that there's actually an official national moment of remembrance every Memorial Day at 3 p.m. local time. Americans are encouraged to pause for 1 minute and simply remember those who died serving our country. The initiative was created after officials realized many younger Americans no longer fully understand what Memorial Day represents. Some school children reportedly describe the holiday simply as, "That's the day the pools open," which is both funny and a little depressing at the same exact time. Over the last century, Memorial Day has also become deeply tied to American sports and entertainment traditions, particularly the Indianapolis 500 race. Every Memorial Day weekend, hundreds of thousands of people gather for one of the largest sporting events in the world, where millions more watch on television. And somehow, America collectively decided the perfect way to honor fallen soldiers was to watch cars travel 200 miles per hour in a giant circle while eating potato salad. Yet weirdly, it works. The Indy 500 became wrapped into the larger emotional atmosphere of Memorial Day weekend itself. Military flyovers, performances of taps, moments of silence, patriotic tributes, veteran ceremonies, giant crowds, and backyard cookouts all blended together into one enormous American tradition. And honestly, if you had to explain America to aliens who just landed, Memorial Day weekend might actually cover most of it. Memorial Day has also evolved emotionally, depending on the era America was experiencing. During World War II, Memorial Day ceremonies became massive patriotic events tied directly to the war effort. Cities organized military parades, war bond drives, speeches, and ceremonies supporting troops overseas. After the Vietnam War, however, the tone of Memorial Day changed significantly. Vietnam deeply divided the country, and many returning veterans face criticism or indifference instead of celebration. Memorial Day ceremonies in the 1970s and the 1980s carried a more reflective and emotional atmosphere as Americans tried to process the complicated legacy of that war. Following the attacks of September 11th, Memorial Day again took on a different meaning for many Americans. Younger generations who grew up during relatively peaceful decades suddenly found themselves watching long overseas wars unfold in real time. Military deployments, casualties, funerals, and returning veterans once again became visible parts of everyday American life. For many families, Memorial Day became more personal because they directly knew someone serving overseas. There are also some unusual and lesser known facts tied to Memorial Day throughout history. Memorial Day weekend consistently ranks among the busiest travel weekends in the United States every single year. Millions of Americans hit the roads and airports at the exact same time, creating massive traffic jams that have practically become a national tradition of their own. In fact, sitting in traffic wondering why you thought traveling was a good idea on this day may now be one of the most authentic modern Memorial Day experiences possible. Another unusual fact is that Memorial Day helped shape the entire idea of the summer kickoff weekend. Once the holiday became tied to a 3-day weekend, businesses, tourism companies, sports leagues, and advertisers all started building major events around it. In many ways, Memorial Day helped create the modern American concept of the beginning of summer itself. Despite all the commercialization surrounding the holiday today, the core purpose of Memorial Day remains remarkably simple. It's not about politics. It's not about party affiliation. It's not even necessarily about whether someone agreed with every war America fought. At its core, Memorial Day is about remembering that millions of Americans throughout history gave up the rest of their lives while serving their country. They never got another summer, another birthday, another holiday, another family dinner, or another chance to grow old. That reality is ultimately what Memorial Day was created to honor. So yes, Wolfpack, enjoy the barbecue, enjoy the race, spend time with your family, relax during this long weekend. But maybe at some point today, take 60 seconds or even a little more away from social media, television, politics, and all the noise that constantly surrounds modern life. Take one quiet moment to remember the people who never made it home. Because without them, America would almost certainly look very different today. Let me know how you feel about this, Wolfpack. Email me, wolfpacktalks@gmail.com. I would like to hear from you. And if you enjoy my podcast, and if you think they are informative, and if you get a laugh or two every now and then please support the podcast through my GoFundMe. The link is in the description below this episode. I'm Jeff Allen Wolf. This is A World Gone Mad. Have a wonderful and safe Memorial Day weekend.